Pandemic has put many people around the globe working remotely, grounding international travel and also limiting local travel. So what's the future of mobility? Is it autonomous car, a shared car, or a drone taxi? As an expert on mobility, you often speak about future of mobility. And what I see in this pandemic year, there are two contradictory trends happening. One is a trend of sustainability in the city, keeping cities greener with blue skies, off traffic, giving more bicycle lanes and shutting down parking lots. And at the same time, with all the restrictions on pandemic, people tend to take the individual cars rather than using public transportation to avoid the virus. What's your vision on the future of mobility?
This is, of course, the short-term future, what's happening now with the pandemic. And it's indeed, people tend to stick to individual modality because public transport has some, people are a little bit afraid to get contaminated in the public transport, which on itself is not really fact-based, but okay. They rather have their very safe, corona-proof 1.5 meter distance cars or bicycles. So an individually modality is preferred. On the other hand, we see at this moment that because there's less traffic, especially in cities, and because, and that's an important thing, people always want to stay mobile. And when they're working at home, it doesn't mean that they do not want to go out. So mobility on itself, we are mobile beings actually. We want to get out for a little bit more than 1 hour. It's relatively predictable. That's already since prehistoric times, we always have been mobile for 1 hour. So what these people that work at home do and get all their stuff delivered, they still want to go out for 1 hour and then tend to take a walk or do some biking, etc. So you see the numbers of bikes and walkers in cities exploding in a good direction. There are much less cars. So we are now shifting room from car traffic and from public traffic to more bikes and active modalities. On the other hand, people tend to drive more cars, and that's indeed. So in the cities, you see that we are reclaiming space. Outside the cities, you see that the car really wins on popularity, and that's going to stay a while.
Does it mean then more freedom in the mobility, or we're more restricted in our movement?
We are actually more freedom, I guess, because what we have found out, and that's, I think, the most important thing that will be there for the future. It's, by the way, something that anyhow would have happened, but now gets a huge impulse because of the pandemic. But the fact what we will see is that we are going to be a little bit more clever than just going to work from 8 to 5 o'clock, that everybody was in the same traffic jam in the morning, started complaining about it, which is strange because you're not in a traffic jam, you are the traffic jam, and we kept on complaining about it. Now that we have this crash course on teleworking, there's no excuse anymore. Everybody now knows how to telework. We will get back to meeting each other's live for sure, as soon as we have the vaccine or whatever, when this pandemic is over. And we will get back to meeting each other's live because that's where the ideas pop up and when the relations are being built. But we're not going to do that 5 days a week from 8 till 5 or something. That's so stupid. We're never going to go back to that. So that actually gives, to my point of view, much more liberty.
Going towards autonomous car, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think you have your estimations. So There is a futuristic opinion that household will have their shared car, the car that will pick up people from the community, take to the city, come back into the parking spot. What do you think about it? Shared or not?
It's mainly nonsense. And I said, you hear a lot of these TEDx movies and the future visions, and there's some reports on that we're not going to own cars anymore, and everybody will have a system of shared cars. That are you just order a ride and it will drive in front of you, and why then pay an expensive car? I think this theory that you hear very often is mainly based on some very big mistakes. The first one being that people do not look at a car of just transporting them from A to B. No, it's actually the moving part of their house, an extension of their cave.
It's a house on the wheels.
Your stuff in it. And a lot of people, but you only use it for 5% of the day. And I think, okay. Most of the stuff that I own, I use much less than 5% per day. But I still want to have that if I want to use it, it should be there. And that's the essence, actually. A lot of people say you don't own music anymore. You now have Spotify, which is a shared system. I say, yes, okay, I don't need to have my own CDs. But now, in the time of CDs, the access to my music was kind of a hassle, because if you want to hear a certain song, you have to look for your CD, and they were never on alphabetic order. And if you found it, the CD was out because on the wrong box. So it took about 2 minutes, best case, before you really could hear the song. With the Spotify system, it takes me 7 seconds if I want to hear a song, a specific song, and I can choose from the entire music database. So the access to music improved by sharing music. If you see this for cars, if you start sharing cars, people, if you have your own car, it takes 7 seconds to find your car. If you want to have a shared car, you probably have to wait for a couple of minutes. So your access quality goes down. And I'm a non-believer in consume less kind of religions, that for some reason or for some higher purpose, we can convince people to go a step back in quality of life. So, no, I don't think the sharing car, it oversees so many of our biological tendencies. And a lot of people say it will be cheaper. No, it's not going to be cheaper. It's not going to be cheaper, because only the cleaning of a car, because you have to clean it maybe once a day, but cleaning a car on itself is already more expensive than owning a car in the future, because that's the biggest disruption. Cars on itself are going to be very, very, very cheap. And we always spend 13 to 15% of our budget on mobility. And now you can buy a very decent car for that and fly a little bit around and do some public transport. That's your mobility budget. Also in the future, we will spend this 15%. That's some kind of biological constant. And you will get much more car for that. And it's not going to be cheaper to share a car, how paradoxal that I also might think.
Thank you for watching this episode with Carlo van der Weijer from Eindhoven University. And we will continue the discussion, so stay tuned to the second episode.